Hello everyone and welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to start doing one of our first games, and this is going to be a rock paper scissors game. So to get started you're going to want to like and subscribe because that's the only way the program would run, and after you do that you want to import random. So we've seen this module before. Random is going to help us pick, or it's going to help the computer pick a random choice between rock, paper, and scissors. And in order to do that, we need to store them inside of a list. So we have, or a tuple, you could say. So we have options, and inside the options, we want to say rock, paper, and scissors. So we have a variable called running, and that variable is going to hold true. So true equals, or running equals true, which means that the program is running or the game is running. And when we want to step out of the game and stop playing it and stop running the program, we want to change it to false, but that's for later in the program. So while running, we're going to store it in a while loop. So while running, so while the loop is, while this is true, basically it's going to keep running. And we want to say player equals none, because the player didn't choose a choice yet. So we're going to store none inside that variable. And the computer, however, is going to have a choice. So we're going to say computer equals random dot choice, and it's going to pick a choice. We're going to pass in our options, and so that it can choose any choice from our options. So it can choose rock, paper, or scissors. Okay, so moving on, we want to say, like, if the player chooses something that's not in the options, we want to give that user a string of text to tell them that it's not going to work that way. So we can say while player not in options, which means if the player variable is storing something that's not in options, what do we want to do? We want to say player equals input, and then we can say anything like enter a proper choice. And then this is just us reminding them of the choices. And that's basically it for the, kind of, you could say, the exception. And I messed it up, but yeah. Okay, cool. So then we want to print a statement that tells you what the computer picked and what the player picked. And then we will say if you win or lose depending on the choices. So we're going to use a printf to make things simpler, but you can choose something else, and I could show you later on in the video. But we're going to say player, and here's going to be player, and we want to say, we're going to surround that by quotes, and we're going to say player and then player. So whatever the player picks, it's going to be stored in the player variable, and then here we're going to be inserting the player variable into the string, and it's going to say player colon and whatever the player picked. So here is going to be rock, paper, or scissors. And same thing goes for the computer, of course. So let's just copy that, and here we want to say computer and computer again. Okay, let's check what we have so far. So enter a choice, please, rock, paper, scissors, and let's say that it's going to keep saying it. If we don't enter a choice, it's going to keep saying that. So let's pick a proper choice, and that's rock. So player picks rock, computer picks scissors, and it's going to keep asking you, what do you want? So let's say scissors. Okay, it picked paper and I picked scissors, so technically I won here, and in the first round I won the first round as well, so that's great. So let's close the program and carry on. Now we want to see who wins and who loses, and we're going to do that with the help of if statements. So we're going to say if, and make sure you pay attention to the indentation, because if this if statement was over here, if it wasn't indented, then it would be outside of the while loop, and we don't want that because the while loop is the whole game, basically. So if player equal computer, which means that if we both pick the same thing, we want to print it's a tie. Okay, great. And we can say else if player equal rock and computer equal scissors. So if I pick rock and the computer picks scissors, what's gonna happen then? You tell me. We win, exactly. So print you win. And then we're just gonna copy paste this a few more times. And we're gonna change up the little, the words. So, okay, so if we pick the same thing, it's a tie. And if we pick rock and the computer picks scissors, we win. Now, we wanna say if we choose if we choose paper, sorry, and the computer chooses, let's say, rock, then you win again. And if we choose scissors and the computer chooses paper, we win. So these are all the winning scenarios that we have. So rock, paper, or scissors. And if we choose scissors and the computer chooses paper, we win. And then the rest we can just store it within an else statement. So we can delete all of this and say else print you lose. So this makes things a lot simpler than stating all the cases where we would win and all the cases where we would lose, because if we're not going to win and it's not a tie, then we lose. So you don't need to print more or type more else if statements. You can just put else, you lose. And let's try again. So whatever, it keeps asking, we say rock, the computer picked rock as well, so it's a tie. And we can choose paper, and the computer chose scissors, so that's not in any of our winning conditions, and it's not a tie, so we definitely lost. And so on and so forth. Okay, moving on. Now we want to ask if the player wants to continue playing or not, because this, as you can see, the program runs and runs and runs until I exit out of it manually from here. So how do we fix that? How we fix that is we can say if not input, and then we can prompt the user saying, do you want to play again? So we give it the choices here, Y or N, and that basically implies yes or no. And let me fix that. And then of course dot lower, because if the user has their caps lock on and they put Y, capital Y, we still want it to accept Y, like the normal Y. So equal Y. So if it's not Y, then what do? We say running equals false, because running is true, and while running is true, we're going to keep running this program. So if we set running to false, then it's no longer true, which means the while loop will terminate and it will stop running. And after all of this, you can simply just do whatever you want. You can move on to the next program, or you can just print. So let's try it. Rock, paper, scissors. If we don't enter anything, it just keeps asking. If we enter something stupid, it keeps asking. And if we make a proper choice, as we should, like rock, computer picked rock, and or I picked rock, sorry, and computer picked paper, so we lose, and that makes a lot of sense. If we say, let's say, Y, then it keeps asking us rock, and it's a tie. Now, if we say anything else, it stops. And also, of course, if we say N, or literally anything, like literally anything that's not Y, then the game stops and the loop terminates and the program ends and it says thanks for playing. And I did say that you can do this another way, and basically the way you can do this is you can basically say for each one, you can say, for example, and this is very tedious of course, but you can say something like this. I'll give you a quick little rundown of it, but you can say if player equal computer, then what happens, we say print computer. I was gonna say computer picked, but we don't need to do that. And then we can say comma computer. And then we can do the same thing for player. And then we can say print tie. And then we can go ahead and say else if player equals rock. And then inside the else if statement, we can say if computer equals paper. And then we do the same thing for player. And then we want to print you win or lose. Let me check. Okay, so if the player picks rock and the computer plays paper, then we say you lose, and so on and so forth. As you can see, this is going to be very tedious and very long because we're going to have to check each and every single case, and that could take a lot of time and code to write, so we don't really want that. So you just cancel that and stick to this. But if this works for you and it makes sense to you and it's easier for you to remember or learn, then go ahead and use that. But this is the way I prefer it because it's just a lot simpler. So with that being said, we have reached the end of this video, and if you enjoyed or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more computer science content.